Jenny, hello, welcome to another session. I am so excited because today I think we're going to be covering arts, but specifically storytelling. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me back. I'm looking forward to this session.
Yes. So I guess over to you. Let's kick it off with the storytelling because I know it's a very core key aspect of Aboriginal culture.
Okay. As most people know, the First Nations have been around for over 60,000 years. And the way we've passed on our values and our ways of managing the land and managing ourselves and doing the right thing has been through storytelling. And often the form that takes is actually in the art. So,
Right.
drawings on rocks or small sketches
Yeah.
have been that record that has actually, helped historians identify how old our culture is.
Yeah, nice. And do these stories represent anything? These art forms on rocks, for example?
Yeah, so they actually follow what we refer to as our creation, which is through the dreaming stories, and that's
Yeah.
represented in art. So, whether it's something about the rainbow serpent, you'll see some artwork with a beautiful serpent. We've got many symbols that represent either hunting or gathering or different symbols for meeting places, so that language, and even with us having so many tribes or mobs within our nation and nations, the language often didn't, transfer across. So what was the most successful way to communicate, number one, and then to pass on history, was in the form of art and the symbols that represented our thinking and our beliefs.
So with something that happened with our culture, and that's why we lost a lot of it, is what we call it's passed down orally. So it was not a written culture till very late. So because there is so much emphasis on the pronunciation, that knowledge was passed by verbally, reciting. The guru, being the teacher, would verbally recite, and then the students would repeat after them because pronunciation was really important. So is that something similar for Aboriginal cultures?
Slightly different in that, as I said, the language wasn't at the forefront of our or a common language of our civilization. So originally it was all about the art, but then, as we evolved and languages were starting to be formed and mixed, it was very much about how to describe things and how to pass them on.
Yeah. And is there a script associated with these languages, Jenny?
Not really. Most of our recordings are through art.
Right. Okay. So it's more than just storytelling. It is actually capturing the history as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating because to me, storytelling signifies, really from a Hinduism perspective or Indian culture perspective, storytelling has been more of a metaphor, and not so much capturing of history. Yes, history has been captured, but I think, and this is a personal opinion, I think a lot of the history has also been distorted, because it's always good to make something grander than it is because it tells a good story, and ultimately the reason why these stories were told was to drive a lesson home. And something I was taught by my dad very early on is that religion is just something humans created to keep the civilization disciplined, and that's all there is to it. And when I unpack that, and I've always said that I differentiate Hinduism into two realms. One is the mythology, and then there is the philosophy, or what people like to call today spiritualism, spirituality. So there are those core aspects, but for us, storytelling has been more of a way to drive a message home. And, you know, fascinatingly, this Sunday is Diwali, and Diwali happens to be my favorite festival. And there are so many stories attached to Diwali. But if you really pare it back, it's essentially a harvesting season. So India has two harvesting seasons. And this is one of the main harvesting seasons, and it's always started with a celebration. It's also the new moon, and that's why the Festival of Lights, because it's new moon, as in it's dark in the skies. And when you're in India, you'll see there are lamps everywhere, and nobody realizes it's actually new moon because it's so well lit. So there's and that is connected to a story which is possibly a historical story around the king Ram coming back home after, you know, having spent 14 years in the forests. So there are all those stories, but they are all created in a way that either it serves a purpose, which is a practical purpose. So in this case, it was around the festival is around the harvesting time. It's new moon, you light the lamps. It's also the start for some communities in India. It's a start of a new year, new financial year. And it's attributed to the Lord Lakshmi, goddess Lakshmi. She's the goddess of wealth. And again, as I've mentioned a few times, gods for us are really just what you could call laws of something or the other. So goddess Lakshmi would be associated with that part of your thinking, that part of your brain, which will help you think about financial gains and solving financial problems. So storytelling is fascinating in my culture because ultimately it leads you to the philosophy. So if you have the patience and dig deep, then you can get the philosophy. Otherwise, you remain in the mythology realm and you still get some benefit out of it.
It's fascinating how, and I to your point where the original intent may have been watered down or changed a little. That's absolutely the same that's happened in our culture as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's, in some instances, I think it's just because there are so many little versions of language and our dreaming that sometimes it's easier just to sort of mesh them together a little bit to make it easier for other cultures to consume that information and get a bit of a picture. Like it's close.
Yeah.
You'll find that, you know, each separate nation will have their own little version of that and how they passed on those stories.
Yeah. See, my personal opinion is that religion is man-made, right? And everyone has interpreted it differently. There's a bit of a power play in it. And one has to really lift those layers. And that's part of the problem we have today. Because when you lift the layers and you look right to the core, everyone is saying the same thing because the truth is very small. There is nothing fundamentally earth-shattering about it. But because of the various power plays, and it doesn't matter which religion, which culture you're talking about, I think it's happened in all religions, all cultures. Humans have captured the narrative and brought in a bit of a power play and completely transformed a very basic small message into something so magnanimous that we are starting to have wars and stuff like that.
Yes. But when you break it down to its simplest form, a lot of it is about respecting each other, respecting Mother Earth.
Yeah. And for me, and this is what fascinates me about the Aboriginal cultures, because for me, it is about the connectedness. You know, we are all one. And that's where I've been fascinated from day zero about the Mother Earth and the connection with the Mother Earth, because for us as well, it's Mother Earth, Ma, you know, Dharti Ma, we call it Mother Earth. And it's the acknowledgement that we're all one. And because when you think about it from that perspective, it becomes really empowering because the power play goes away because we're all one. Who are you fighting? Who are you fighting for?
Yeah. We're one, we're equal, we're sharing the same land and seas.
Yeah, exactly. As always, a good chat.
Yes.
Fascinating.
It is, and you could talk about this forever, with how art evolves over the years as well.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. Talk to you next time.
Thank you, Ruchi.